Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. It is 12 p.m. promptly here. We're here to talk about posting a direct purchase of a new asset on our chart of accounts in Church Windows Accounting, also detailed or named capitalizing an asset here in our system. Before we get started, a couple things. We're recording today's event, so the video of today's webinar will be available on our website here sometime in the next few days or couple days or so, hopefully even as soon as tomorrow. So if you want to revisit this, you may certainly do so. We have a document that I'm using as the basis for the event today. It is not in any one of our workbooks. If we go to our Support Center here under Supporting and into Support Center and then type in the keyword asset, we do see our right here, Accounting Asset Direct Purchase, version 19 or newer. Okay, and that's the document. When I click on that, it says click here to, view or print PDF, how to post a direct purchase of an asset, capitalizing an asset. That is the document I'm using today. Okay. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar for me. It is just me. I will do my best to keep an eye on those and see what I can't do to get those answered during the event. Please keep the questions on topic, meaning about our topic of purchasing or capitalizing an asset today. There may be another webinar event that is better suited to cover the topic that you have questions about, or of course, please call our technical support staff at 800-533-5227. Or you can, of course, send us an email to support@churchwindows.com as well. We're scheduled for 20 minutes today. This event may take 20 minutes today, folks. It may not. It's not a terribly difficult or complicated topic. There are a few deviations that I might take off from the actual topic just based on some special situations on here on this particular topic, but even then it may not even take a full 20 minutes. So thank you very much for attending today. All right, so essentially what we're talking about here is, now this works, folks, this same topic that we're talking about works really no matter what kind of an asset you're purchasing, whether it's, we're purchasing money, taking money from our checking to put it into some investments or purchase a CD or money market, or as we're going to do today or show today, is we're going to use it for the purchase of a new van that the church is purchasing for church events, okay, which in this case would be a fixed asset because that's what most closely resembles the document that I've referred you to. But essentially the same theories and applications can be applied to the purchasing of any asset that the church has or is purchasing, no matter what kind, okay? Assets, of course, represent things that the church owns. Funds also play a factor into this as well. And again, it's much of how this is transpired. Folks, this is an accounting system, okay? It's your system, your chart of accounts, your data. You can do virtually anything you want with it, okay? What we're doing here is just a basic structure and framework of what we would commonly see as being done, or would do to show the purchase of a new asset. But there's all kinds of flexibility here, and there are a number of ways that you can do this, depending all on what folks want to see or how they want to see it on the reports that you're distributing, okay? So first of all, we've got, as number one on the document talks about adding a new asset account, and it talks about fixed assets. In this case, we're not going to add a fixed asset. We're going to add a new asset that will belong or sit in our fixed assets or be grouped in our fixed assets right here under land and building. Let me get some highlighter here. Right here, land and buildings or furniture and equipment. And we're going to add one right below that for church van, okay? With that being said, when we scroll down to our collapse all and go down to our fund balances, we also notice here that we've got a fund here, 390, let me highlight it right here, highlighted right here, 390, 100 fixed assets, okay, net fixed asset fund balance, okay. So because we have a general net fixed asset fund balance, we're not going to add a church van fund, like we don't have land and buildings separated or furniture and equipment separated. This net fixed asset fund is going to include the purchase of our new van as well, okay? So we're not going to set up a new fund for that. We are going to only set up the new asset account, okay? So there's a couple different ways we can do that. We can go up to manage accounts here in the top left, accounts plus minus, and then when those change here in the upper left corner, right here I've got asset. I could go in there and add that. I'm not going to use that function today, okay? So when we click on that, it opens up our setup chart of accounts and shows us our new assets, okay? This can be done here, okay, but I'm going to show you the other way that we can do this as well, okay? So we close out of that. We're here at our chart of accounts. I go right over here under our assets, and I click on any one of the assets in the list, and I'm going to go to the Tree View tab here, okay? So we're going to right-click over the assets, and it says Add a New Asset, okay? So we're going to click on it there, and we're going to call this Church Van. And we're going to make this one, because we see the account numbers. Let me get rid of my drawings here to maybe steer some focus. Because we see the account numbers for our land and building here is 150, 100, and furniture and equipment's 150, 120, we're going to make this one 150, 140. Okay, so we're going to click in here, and we're going to number this 150, and we're going to put in 140. Okay. And then we're going to click our subtotals menu here, and right here we're going to choose to add that new van, church van asset into our total fixed assets, saving ourselves some time by putting it into its appropriate subtotal at the time we're adding the account, and we're going to simply click OK. Okay. So now notice in our chart of accounts down the left-hand side, we've got our land and buildings, we've got our furniture and equipment, and we've got our church van. Okay. The document, that's step one on our document, okay? Step two talks about adding an offsetting fund balance, usually called net fixed asset fund. Folks, this is where it kind of gets into that gray area that I'm talking about. It all depends on whether the church wants to report it separately, not only on the asset side, but also in the fund side, on the bottom side of our balance sheet in our funds, okay? This is all based on how the church wants to, again, see these assets, or how they want to see these on our fund side of our balance sheet. And as I was previously explaining, we don't have a separate fund for our land and buildings, not a separate one under our assets for our furniture and equipment. We have just a general catch-all fund down here called net fixed asset fund balance. So in the case of our example here today, because we have that, we're not going to add a fund called net fixed asset or van fund. We already have one in our chart of accounts. If you didn't have a fixed asset fund on your chart of accounts, you would want to set that up, okay, by adding a new 300 account, calling it, you know, van fund or fixed assets or what have you, okay? So if you did, again, you could go to the funds, go to the tree view, right-click over funds and choose add new fund. Or again, we could go up to manage accounts, accounts plus minus, and right here at the top center, choose the option called fund right here, okay? And then when we click on that, it opens up our setting up main funds, and I could add the fund here, okay? But we're not going to do that because we already have the fund on the chart of accounts that we're needing to receive this new money for this, or post these new assets for our new van purchase, which in this case represents additional money that's posted to our fixed assets, okay? A change in the increase in the balance of that. All right, so step three is now posting the transfer, okay? So we would go up to transactions here, and now folks, this is when we're purchasing the new van, we can still write a check when posting the transfer from, say, our checking account to get the money into our fixed asset fund, or in this case, our church van fund. Okay, so we go up to transactions, right up here to the option called transfer at the center, right here, transfer. There it is. Okay, and that's what we're going to use. Now, before we do that, we're going to go to, let me get rid of my drawing here, and we're going to go back to manage accounts, and we're going to click on our church van. Now, if I need to write a check to purchase the new van from the dealership that I'm purchasing it from, or the vendor or payee that I'm purchasing it from, I would highlight my church van asset here, and over here on the right, you see where it says bank name. Let me get out my highlighter again, right here, bank name, okay? I'm going to put in there the name of the payee that I'm going to put on my check, okay? So then, we're going to put in here, buyers, Chevrolet. If I could type today. Okay. I don't know if there's even an E in there. We're going to assume that's right. So here now, when I do that, and I close out and I go back up to my transactions and transfer, okay, we're going to say we're going to purchase that van today. So here I'm going to post a transfer from my general checking account, which would be typically my general fund. So here I would do Huntington Bank checking, and over here on the right I'm going to choose church van. And we're going to say, that's a $15,000 purchase, okay? And right here under payment method, I can choose computer check, okay? And we're going to put in comments for purchase of church van, okay? And we're going to click Done, Add to Batch. And before we click Post, I'm a big fan of this, we add the item to the batch, and now when we click Show Running Balance, we're showing that our church van started with a current balance of 0, the effect of $15,000, the adjusted balance is 15. I've also shown that the money has been reduced or taken out of my Huntington Bank checking appropriately, okay? That's now doing what I want. I would now click, I'm just verifying that the transaction's doing what I want it to do, and I would click Post, okay? Asking me if I want to print my report of my transaction, we're going to click No. Closing out of my running balance window, closing out of transfers. Now, when I click here on the bottom right under Print Checks, and it opens up here, I should have a check waiting. Come on, there it is. To, now notice in this case, right here, to Huntington, from my Huntington Bank checking account with my payee as buyer Chevrolet, okay? Right there. So what this does, folks, is it removes the need for us to actually have to enter and pay a bill for the purchase of that, charging an expense account, okay? So I've now got that check waiting in queue. I can now, enter my starting check number, type that in there and click on print, and it brings up the print check, and I can print this and send that off or take it with me when I'm going to the the dealer to purchase the actual vehicle, okay? So again, step 3 now is done of our capitalizing or establishing or purchasing of a new asset. So the step 4 here would be to post an additional transfer now. So we go back up to transactions, and here, same date, I would choose, because this would be a general fund expense, I'm going to choose my general operating fund. Over here under the To account, I'm going to choose my net fixed asset fund, and I would enter the same exact amount, $15,000. Again, I'm showing that I've taken that amount out of my general fund, and I'm moving it into my net fixed asset fund equally. So my net fixed asset fund and my net fixed asset accounts still has its own mini total assets equals total fund balance equation in play. And again, I would put in the same type of comments here, okay, for purchase of new van. Okay, and same thing, let me get my added to my batch and say again, show running balance. And again, my operating fund is lower by 15,000 and my net fixed asset fund balance is higher by the 15,000, okay? And same thing I would go ahead and post. Now, that is typically how that might be handled, folks, okay? If the church wants to see the 15,000 as an expense on our treasurer's report, okay, what I would want to do then is, and when that makes complete sense, we're going to go ahead and discard the batch here, is, you know, I mean, it makes complete sense that we would want to see that if we're actually expensing that money out, that we would want to show that when we purchased our new vehicle that we would want to see that as a $15,000 expense on our monthly and annual treasurer's report to the general fund. So what we would do here then in that case is we would go over here to our tree view, again go to our funds, right-click over general fund and choose add expense for our general fund, and we're going to call this van purchase expense. And again, I would settle on a expense account number of some kind here. We're going to make this one, you know, 60.100. I'm hoping that's available. And then, you know, I would choose where it's going to go. We're going to make this maybe total part of property and building. Oh, it's in use. So let's make this one 560. How about 510,999? Let's see if that's available. And sure enough, it is. Okay. So I've now got that van purchase expense linked to my general fund. Okay. I would still do my asset transfer to move the money and write my check from checking into my new van purchase asset, okay? And so now when I want to show that on my treasurer's report and still moving it into my next fixed asset fund, I would now go up to transactions, other, and I would choose to post a journal entry, okay? Again, making it today's date. My debit account would be my van purchase expense, debiting $15,000. Click the plus sign. Now I would choose my net fixed asset fund balance, crediting 15,000, and it has the effect of now done add to batch. And when I do my click my show running balance again, it's showing clearly I've got a $15,000 expense on my expense account. And again, it's showing that I've now added or moved 15,000 into my net fixed asset fund balance account. Okay. So now, yes, my balance sheet is also affected because my expense is linked to my general fund. So the general fund is lower by the 15,000, but I'm now showing it on my monthly or annual treasurer's report as an actual physical expense to the church. All of this, again, folks, without needing to enter and pay a bill. Okay, the asset side of the asset transfer side of the transaction has not changed. I would still do the same asset transfer, and I would only do this journal entry to debit the expense and credit the fixed asset fund, whatever fund you set up for the fixed assets or the van, if I really wanted to see that on my treasurer's report as an expense. Okay. But that's in addition, that's the addendum, that's 4A on our post-transfer on our document there, that if, again, we had different reporting wants, rather than doing the transfer between the funds, that would be the only other thing we might typically want to do in a, you know, above and beyond or separate from our fund transfer. All right, folks, that's our topic for today. You know, thank you again for attending.